Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seven Continents, One Story.
Hi there. So glad you're joining us today.
Hey everyone, great to have you here.
I'm Niels, professor of history from Sweden.
I'm Celine, joining you from Edinburgh, Scotland.
And I'm Ethan, calling in from Malta.
Together, we explore incredible stories from history across all 7 continents.
Every episode brings you a new journey through time.
From ancient civilizations to modern moments that changed everything.
So let's begin.
Hello everyone, welcome back to 7 Continents, One Story.
Hey, so good to be here again. How are you both doing today?
I'm wonderful, thank you, Celine. Very excited about today's episode.
I'm doing great. This topic looks intense. A whole city on fire? That's wild.
I know. I've been reading about this all week. Nils, what have you got for us today?
Celine, I'm glad you asked. I have something very special to show you both. Something that survived one of the greatest disasters in British history. Right. I have a challenge for both of you. €5 says neither of you can identify this mysterious object.
Ooh, I love these. What kind of object?
Niels, you know I'm terrible at these guessing games, but go on then.
This one is special. I saw the original at the Museum of London, and it changed how I understood this event completely. All right, here's your first clue. This object should be hard, durable, built to last for centuries. But something happened to it. Now it's twisted, deformed, melted like candle wax.
Wait, melted? What can melt something that's supposed to last for centuries?
That's a good question, Ethan. It must have been exposed to incredible heat.
Exactly, Celine. Heat beyond anything you can easily imagine. But we'll come back to this. First, let me take you there. The year is 1666. It's Sunday, September 2nd. You're in London. But not the London of today. This is medieval London. The streets are narrow, so narrow that the timber-framed houses lean across the alleyways toward each other. You can almost shake hands with your neighbor across the street without leaving your window.
Wow.
It's early morning, around 1 o'clock. Most of the city sleeps. The summer has been brutally hot and dry. For months, everything is tinder dry. The wooden buildings, the thatched roofs, even the air feels parched. And then, on a little street called Pudding Lane, in a baker's shop, someone makes a mistake. A small mistake. Maybe some embers weren't properly extinguished in the oven. Within 4 days, 13,200 houses will be destroyed. 87 churches will burn. The greatest cathedral in England will melt. And up to 100,000 people will have nowhere to live. This is the story of the Great Fire of London, the disaster that ended the Middle Ages in Britain. Forever. To understand how this happened, you need to know what London was like in 1666.
Was it really different from London today?
Completely different, Ethan. The city of London, that's the square mile within the old Roman walls, wasn't some grand capital yet. It was essentially still a medieval town.
I've walked through parts of Edinburgh that probably looked similar. Those narrow wynds and closes, buildings practically touching each other.
Exactly like that, Celine. Except London was even more densely packed. About 400,000 people living in and around the city. And here's the critical detail. Almost everything was built of wood.
Oh no, wood plus fire equals disaster.
Not just wood, Ethan. Thatched roofs, pitch, tar, oil. Remember, this was a port city. Warehouses along the Thames were stacked with flammable materials. It was a city built to burn.
And you mentioned they'd had a drought?
The whole summer. Months without significant rain. Everything was bone dry. Perfect conditions for what firefighters today call a firestorm. Now, the fire started at a bakery owned by a man named Thomas Dagger. He was the king's baker, quite successful. He had a family, apprentices, servants. Among them was a journeyman baker named Thomas Dagger, who was working there that night.
A journeyman? So he was learning the trade?
Exactly. He was one of the workers at the bakery. We'll hear more about him later.
Hold on, I need to understand something. If fires were as common back then, didn't they have ways to deal with them?
Great question. Yes, small fires were very common, almost weekly occurrences. The city had systems in place.
Leather buckets and bucket brigades, right? I read about those.
Exactly, Celine. Every household was supposed to keep leather buckets filled with water. When someone shouted, "Fire!" neighbors would form chains, passing buckets hand to hand.
So what made this fire different?
3 things came together. First, the drought. Second, the wind. On that Sunday morning, a strong easterly wind was blowing. And third, something we'll get to soon, a catastrophic failure of leadership.
I came across something fascinating in my reading this week. London had just been through the Great Plague the year before, in 1665.
Yes, about 100,000 people had died, 1/6 of the population.
So the city was still recovering. People were traumatized, exhausted, and now they face this.
It must have felt like the end of the world. Plague, then fire. Some people genuinely believed it was divine punishment. Remember our mysterious melted object? Here's your second clue. This object was found in the ruins of the greatest building in England. When archaeologists and historians examined it, they realized something stunning. The temperatures during the fire must have reached 1700 degrees Celsius.
1700 degrees? How hot is that exactly?
That's hot enough to melt metal, isn't it, Nils?
It is, Celine. In fact, we have eyewitness accounts of molten lead flowing down the streets like rivers. Our object shows just how devastating those temperatures were. So it's Sunday morning, September 2nd, 1666, around 1 o'clock in the morning. The baker Thomas Dagger goes to bed believing his ovens are properly dampened down for the night. He's wrong. By 3 o'clock in the morning, one of his servants wakes the household. The bakery is on fire. Flames are already climbing the wooden walls.
What did they do?
Dagger and his daughter Hannah climb out an upstairs window onto the roof of the neighboring house. They make it. But there was a maidservant, a young woman whose name we'll never know. She was too frightened to jump the gap between the buildings.
She died?
She became the first victim of the Great Fire of London. Her name wasn't considered important enough to record. Meanwhile, Thomas Dagger, the journeyman baker, was there. He helped raise the alarm, helped the family escape. We know he survived, but like the maidservant, his role would be forgotten by history for 350 years.
When did people realize this wasn't just another small fire?
Not soon enough. Here's where our story takes a crucial turn. Around 7 o'clock Sunday morning, the Lord Mayor of London, a man named Sir Thomas Bloodworth, is summoned to inspect the fire.
So the authorities responded quickly?
They responded, but Bloodworth made a decision that would prove catastrophic. When his advisors suggested demolishing the houses around the fire to create a firebreak, he refused.
He refused? Why?
Because to destroy houses, he'd need permission from the property owners, and he was worried about the legal liability. What if he demolished valuable buildings and then the fire went out naturally? The owners could sue him.
But the fire was spreading.
It was. And Bloodworth looked at it and said something that would become infamous. Pish, a woman might piss it out.
He said that? Those were his actual words?
Those were his words, recorded by multiple witnesses. He dismissed it, went back to bed. Within hours, he'd be fleeing for his life. By midday Sunday, the fire is out of control. The easterly wind, remember? It's driving the flames west through the city like a blowtorch. Picture this. The fire isn't creeping. It's roaring, leaping from building to building across those narrow streets. The wind is so strong that burning embers are flying hundreds of feet ahead of the main fire, starting new blazes.
So it's like jumping forward?
Exactly, like pieces being moved on a chessboard. The firefighters would extinguish one building, and 3 more behind them would ignite from flying embers.
That's when they needed those fire breaks, wasn't it?
Yes. By noon, a man named Pepys, we know him because he kept a famous diary, rushed to Whitehall Palace to inform King Charles II. Now, Charles II was not your typical king. He didn't sit in his palace giving orders. When he heard about the fire, he grabbed his brother James, Duke of York, and they rode straight into the burning city.
The king personally went to fight the fire?
He did, and not just to observe. Witnesses record Charles standing in the bucket brigades, passing buckets, distributing guineas to encourage the workers. He took command. He overruled Bloodworth's hesitation and ordered the demolition of buildings.
Did it work?
Too late. By Monday, the fire had grown so massive that pulling down a few houses couldn't stop it. They needed something more drastic. Monday, September 3rd. The fire has now been burning for over 24 hours. It reaches the Royal Exchange, the financial heart of the city, destroyed. Merchants watch their warehouses burn with their entire fortunes inside. The River Thames is clogged with boats. Tens of thousands of people are fleeing, trying to save whatever possessions they can carry.
Where did they go? Where could they go?
Anywhere outside the walls. Moorfields to the north became a massive refugee camp. Islington, Highgate, people camping in open fields with whatever they'd managed to save. Some people had to choose between their children and their possessions.
That's heartbreaking.
Tuesday, September 4th. This is when the fire reaches its peak. It's now a firestorm. The heat is so intense, it's creating its own weather. Pepys writes in his diary that he saw pigeons hovering above their burning houses. They were so reluctant to abandon their nests that they stayed until their wings caught fire. Then they fell into the flames.
Oh, God.
And then the fire reaches St. Paul's Cathedral, the greatest church in England. Medieval, massive, built of stone.
But stone doesn't burn, right?
The stone didn't burn, but the timber roof did. And here's what happened next. The roof of St. Paul's was covered in lead roofing sheets, like most great cathedrals of the period. When the wooden support beams burned, the lead melted. John Evelyn, another famous diarist, records, walking near St. Paul's and seeing the lead flowing down Ludgate Hill like a river. Our mysterious object? It's a ceramic roof tile from St. Paul's Cathedral. I saw it at the Museum of London. It's partially melted, twisted, deformed.
Ceramic can melt?
At 1700 degrees Celsius, yes, ceramic, pottery, bone. This tile is evidence of temperatures so extreme that if anyone died in that inferno, their bones could have been completely vaporized, cremated to ash and blown away.
That's why the death toll is uncertain?
Exactly. The official records say only 6 to 8 people died, but modern historians believe hundreds, possibly thousands, perished. We'll never know, because at those temperatures, bodies leave no trace. But on Tuesday afternoon, James, Duke of York, does something desperate and decisive. He orders the use of gunpowder.
Gunpowder to fight fire?
To blow up buildings. Create fire breaks wide enough that the fire can't jump. It's incredibly risky. If you blow up the wrong building, or if the wind shifts, you could spread the fire instead of stopping it.
But they had to try something.
They did. Navy crews from the Tower of London worked through the night, setting charges, destroying buildings and coordinated demolitions near Cripplegate and around the tower. And on Wednesday morning, September 5th, something changed.
What?
The wind dropped. After 3 days of relentless gale, the wind finally fell calm. The fire breaks held. The fire stopped spreading. By Thursday, September 6th, it was over.
So let's go back to that crucial moment on Sunday morning. Lord Mayor Bloodworth is standing there, looking at a fire that's still relatively small. His advisors are telling him, demolish the surrounding buildings now, create a fire break. But those buildings belong to wealthy merchants and landlords. If he destroys them without permission, he could be sued. He could be financially ruined.
So here's the question. If you were Bloodworth, what would you do?
You have 3 choices. First, you could order immediate demolitions. Destroy the houses around Pudding Lane right now, create a fire break, and deal with the legal consequences later. You might save the city, but you might also lose everything you own in lawsuits. Second, you could do what Bloodworth actually did. Wait. Try to get permission from property owners. Respect private property rights. Hope the fire burns itself out. But risk it spreading if you're wrong. Third, you could immediately appeal to King Charles II for royal authority. Let him take responsibility for the demolitions. But that means admitting the city can't handle its own emergency. It means royal interference in the city's ancient liberties. What would you do?
I think I'd try to contact the king immediately. Get royal authority before acting.
But that takes time. By the time you get to Whitehall, get an audience with the king, and bring soldiers back, the fire could have spread massively.
True, but Ethan, think about the alternative. If you start demolishing buildings on your own authority and it turns out you didn't need to, you've destroyed people's livelihoods for nothing.
Here's the difficult part. Bloodworth wasn't just worried about being sued. The City of London Corporation was fiercely protective of its independence. For centuries, they'd kept royal power at arm's length. Inviting the king in could set a dangerous precedent.
But the city was burning.
I know it seems obvious to us now, but put yourself there. You don't know yet that this fire is different. You've seen dozens of fires in your career as Lord Mayor. They've all been controlled eventually.
This is what makes historical decisions so fascinating. With hindsight, Bloodworth's choice looks catastrophically wrong. But in that moment, with the information he had, his caution might have seemed reasonable.
But Niels, his advisors were telling him it was serious. He had information. He just didn't listen.
You're right, Ethan, and that's why history judges him harshly. So what did Bloodworth actually do? He looked at the fire. He said, "Pish, a woman might piss it out." And he went back to bed. He refused to order demolitions. He refused to request royal help immediately. He waited. By midday, he was running through the streets, panicking, crying, "Lord, what can I do? I am spent." His hesitation in those first crucial hours meant the fire spread unchecked. By the time fire breaks were finally created, it was too late to save medieval London.
How do you live with that, knowing your decision cost so much?
He lived another 16 years. I can't imagine he ever forgot those words. A woman might piss it out. But let's remember someone else. Someone who made different choices that night. Remember Thomas Dagger, the journeyman baker I mentioned earlier?
The one who worked at the bakery?
Yes. He was there when the fire started. He helped raise the alarm. He helped the Fariner family escape. He survived. For 350 years, we didn't even know his name. The historical records mentioned Fariner and his family. They mentioned the nameless maidservant who died, but Thomas Dagger, forgotten.
How did we find out about him?
In 2016, a historian named Professor Loveman was researching employment records. She found Thomas Dagger's name in the bakery accounts. She pieced together that he was there that night. Thomas Dagger didn't hesitate. He didn't worry about liability or politics. He raised the alarm. He saved lives. History remembers Thomas Bloodworth for his failure. Remember Thomas Dagger? Remember the name? So what came after? The fire burned itself out on Thursday, September 6th. 13,200 houses destroyed, 87 parish churches gone, St. Paul's Cathedral in ruins, up to 100,000 people homeless. And then something remarkable happened.
What?
London rebuilt itself completely. Not as a medieval city, but as a modern city.
How fast did that happen?
Parliament passed the Rebuilding Act of 1667 within a year. This law changed everything. No more timber frame buildings. Everything had to be built with brick or stone. Streets had to be wider. Building heights were regulated based on street width. These were the world's first comprehensive building codes.
So every building regulation we have today, fire codes, zoning laws, they all trace back to this?
Directly back to the Great Fire of London. Yes. The idea that government can mandate building standards for public safety, that starts here.
That's kind of amazing. Like, one disaster changed how we think about cities forever.
Not just building codes. This is when property insurance was invented.
Really? Before the fire, there was no insurance?
Not for property, no. A doctor and property developer named Nicholas Barbin realized that people needed protection against fire loss. In 1680 to 1681, he founded the insurance office for houses. Insurance companies even created their own fire brigades. They'd put metal plaques on insured buildings. If your house caught fire and you had the right plaque, their firefighters would save it.
Wait, so if you didn't have insurance, they'd let your house burn?
Sometimes, yes. Though often they'd fight the fire anyway to protect neighboring insured buildings.
Nils, can we talk about the death toll again? Because 6 people seems impossibly low for a disaster this massive.
It's one of history's great mysteries. The official records from 1666 list only 6 to 8 confirmed deaths. But here's what we know. The firestorm created temperatures hot enough to melt lead, pottery, even stone in some places. At 1700 degrees Celsius, organic matter doesn't just burn, it vaporizes.
So people could have just disappeared?
Exactly. No bodies, no bones. Just ash that blew away in the wind. A historian named Neil Hansen argues the death toll was likely in the hundreds, possibly thousands. The poor, the elderly, the sick, who couldn't flee fast enough. Children separated from parents in the chaos.
And we'll never know their names.
We won't. Just like we almost didn't know Thomas Dagger's name. History tends to remember the powerful and forget the ordinary people who were actually there.
Is it true that Pepys buried cheese to save it from the fire?
It is true. On Wednesday, September 4th, as the fire approached his house, Pepys dug a pit in his garden and buried his wine and a valuable wheel of Parmesan cheese.
Of all the things to save.
I know, but Parmesan was expensive. It was worth saving. Here's another detail I love. The monument to the Great Fire that Sir Christopher Wren designed, it's 202 feet tall.
Why that specific height?
Because if you laid it flat, It would reach exactly from its base to the spot where Farriner's Bakery stood in Pudding Lane. The monument's height equals the distance to where the fire started.
That's brilliant. A precise memorial, not just symbolic.
And of course, the destruction of St. Paul's allowed Christopher Wren to build his masterpiece. The new St. Paul's Cathedral, with its massive dome, took 35 years to complete. It dominated London's skyline for centuries. When it survived the German bombing in World War II, it became a symbol of British resilience. From the ashes of disaster came one of the world's greatest buildings. So what did we learn today?
We learned about a disaster that destroyed medieval London in just 4 days. 13,000 houses, 87 churches, up to 100,000 people displaced.
We learned about Lord Mayor Bloodworth's terrible decision to dismiss the fire with "a woman might piss it out," and how that delay doomed the city.
We learned how King Charles II and his brother James, Duke of York, personally led the fight against the flames, how they finally stopped it with gunpowder demolitions and a bit of luck when the wind dropped.
And we learned that this disaster changed everything. Building codes, fire insurance, the whole way we think about urban safety.
But, most importantly, we learned about Thomas Dagger, the journeyman baker who was there when the fire started, who raised the alarm, who helped save lives. For 350 years, his name was lost, forgotten. It took a historian digging through old employment records in 2016 to rediscover him. History remembers the kings and the lord mayors, the architects and the diarists. Remember Thomas Dagger, the ordinary man who was there at the beginning. Remember the name.
There's something about this story that really gets to me. All those people whose names we'll never know. The maidservant who was too scared to jump. The hundreds or thousands who might have died but left no trace.
It makes you realize how much history we've lost, how many stories are just gone.
This is why we do what we do. Every episode, we try to remember not just the great events, but the people who lived through them, the Thomas Daggers of history. Because they matter. They all matter.
Hey, what did you think about this story? Would you have ordered the demolitions immediately, or would you have hesitated like Bloodworth? We'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts in the comments.
And if you don't want to miss any of our episodes, make sure to follow us or subscribe.
You can also sign up for our email newsletter to stay updated on new episodes.
We're already working on something really fascinating for you.
It might be from Europe again, or perhaps we'll journey to another continent entirely.
We're still deciding, but trust us, it's going to be incredible.
History is full of surprises. That's what makes it so exciting.
Until our next journey through time, keep history alive.